And we're back here live with Lisa K. Solomon, the chair of transformational practices and an author as well. Lisa, thanks for being on the show with us today.
It's fantastic to be here. Thank you.
Well, Lisa, you came over. You're an avid reader of Readers Magazine, and that's why we're featuring you here today. What do you really want to talk about to our audience right now?
I'm so excited that you are here. So I've been involved with Singularity University for a long time, and my focus has been on leadership. So we know that technology is changing the world we live in. We see it every day. And the real question is, how do leaders adapt? Because the world is teeing up the kinds of problems and challenges we've not seen before. So leaders have to be comfortable imagining the future that they want to bring to life. And they need to get more comfortable bringing those ideas forward when there isn't all of the evidence and data to suggest that their ideas are the right ones. And more importantly, and why I love your work, that they're going to serve people and the planet. So I think we have a huge opportunity right now to learn about technology, not just to grow at the expense of others, but to really grow to extend the possibilities for others.
Technology is at a state where it's just growing exponentially right now. It's never been a more important time to be a leader in this day and age, because when you have something that's good, there are some things that are negative that come along with it. What are some of the discussions that you have with others in terms of this growing technology and its impact on the environment or society?
Such a great question, Kevin. I think we have an opportunity and really a responsibility to imagine not just the utopian futures of what these technologies could offer, but the dystopian, what could go wrong as well, and to continually check our assumptions and to seek out disconfirming data that actually flies in the face of our best possibilities, so that not that we can predict the future, but that we're better prepared to handle as unintended consequences roll out. So I think we're going to see a very different makeup in the C-suite of not just the traditional big, bold, visionary leaders, but also folks that are responsible for inclusion of diverse perspectives, folks that are responsible for the ethical consequences, the moral consequences, and increasingly the political consequences of what we're creating. Because we have paces and rates of change that are not happening at the same time. Technology is going faster than our ability to, say, regulate it or to even understand the downstream impact. So it's why capabilities like imagination are so important, why bringing form to ideas and testing them are so important, and making sure that we are actually spending time to think about what could go wrong.
And Lisa, you're at Stanford, is that what you were telling me earlier?
I am. So I teach at the Stanford Institute for Design, known as the D School for many people. And we teach human-centered design. We teach leadership through the lens of making positive choices for the humans that they serve. And I joined there last year as a designer in residence to add a lens of futures to that. So just like we can now learn practices that are teachable and learnable to help leaders make decisions that actually positively impact not just their customers, but their employees as well, we can also learn teachable and learnable practices of thinking about the future, thinking long-term about the future, thinking responsibly about the future. And it doesn't have to be a mystery, that there's actually a set of practices and tools and a mindset that we can embody. And as leaders, when you do that, it can cascade throughout the rest of the organization.
Yeah, I totally believe in that too. And we were just talking about Larry Fink's letter. 63% of millennials believe that the purpose of a business is to improve society, rather than what I was taught in business school only a couple of years ago, to maximize shareholder value. What do you believe in?
I couldn't agree more with Larry Fink's perspective and the importance of all leaders to understand broader stakeholder value from the standpoint of not just their customers, but the employees that work there, the folks that they bring in there perhaps on a contingent basis, the partners that they work with, and the communities that they work within. We don't have to look at it through a zero-sum lens of that we grow at the expense of others. We can grow and enhance others if we're asking the right questions.
Right.
So one of the things that I teach and actually wrote a book about is how do we design better businesses? And what's so exciting, and what I think you write about, is that we don't have to have businesses that just serve the bottom line.
Right.
That if we think differently about the kinds of partners that we bring in, about our customers as our greatest asset because they're the ones that actually help us learn, and our employees are the fuel for possibility, we have to pay attention to that statistic of millennials caring deeply about the work that they do. They don't separate, this is my work life and this is my personal life.
Right.
They just want to show up doing their best work all the time. And so companies that can authentically and congruently create a value system that honors what's good for society will be the best at attracting and retaining that talent. And that is a business proposition. That's just not an altruistic point of view.
Right.
That is good for their business.
And not to mention that millennials will make up 75% of the workforce by 2025. Just something to think about. But Lisa, you're really passionate about this subject. You know, where did you discover this passion, and why are you doing what you're doing?
Kevin, I feel so lucky to be doing what I'm doing. I feel relentlessly optimistic about the future because I believe that showing up as a leader in this way is learnable. I mean, that's why I'm so focused on this word practices. We get stronger at the thing we practice. I don't know about you, but I did not, in my early years, know how to master a spreadsheet, right, or a presentation.
Right.
I learned it over time.
Right.
So the ability to see value in the invisible nooks is something that is learnable, and that is so exciting to me. And so I was very lucky. I had a mother who was a chief learning officer, and so you can imagine our early conversations were about systems thinking and about building value through relationships. And to me, technology is just a way to scale that. It's not a replacement for that. So my hope is that all leaders, as they get excited about technology, is that they don't lose sight of the fact that it's really about people. That technology can help us connect more deeply and help us grow more value for others, not to replace them. And so that's my great focus and work.
And that's an interesting thought. Technology is we're more connected now than ever, but sometimes I feel like we're more disconnected now than ever. I feel like societies and cultures now lack diversity. Everyone is objective now, less subjective with thoughts. What are some of the things that you think about in terms of when we are rolling out new technologies and social media is taking over? What are some of the conversations that you have with other people about how we need to manage this?
I think it is such an astute point that we're all acutely feeling that the promise of technology to make us more connected is actually at the individual level having the opposite impact. That in many ways we're feeling lonelier than ever. We're seeing instances of mental illness, higher depression, in part because these devices that were initially thought to connect us are actually isolating us.
Right.
And that is deeply troubling. And again, I think all leaders in their cultures have an opportunity to make sure that the companies value face-to-face, honest connection. That they really teach everyone to lean into relationships, not just because they're connected through their app or through their Slack or through Microsoft Teams, but they actually carve out time for conversation and connection. Because not only is that how people are going to feel more connected to each other and to the thing that connects them, which is the company that they work for, but that's where new ideas generate.
Right, yeah.
So I wrote a book actually about designing strategic conversations. In many ways, the most important sustainable innovation that we can rely on are the conversations that we have of bringing diverse perspectives together to come up with new and novel ideas, to allow these individual pieces that we have to recombine in interesting ways. That's where new ideas are going to come from. And so I think it's really important for leaders to have clarity about what they can do to promote conversation that's not distracted by a device or by technology, that can allow new ideas to seed.
Well, Lisa, I like to read that book so I can tell people why I'm doing what I'm doing, just to have an excuse. But I think it's an interesting point because I know Stanford is very involved when you're talking about diversity. That's what I was referring to. Diversity and bringing different opinions on to accelerate these conversations. There's a digital divide right now, and I know Stanford's big on doing research on the digital divide. And I found out the other day, actually, a report from Stanford. It says that 83% of rural Americans have access to technology now, or are on the internet, as opposed to suburban or urban at like 96. So there's about a 13% gap there. A lot of this goes to let's see, race. This goes to just basic economics, income levels, poverty levels, gender too. I mean, all these different factors that might limit someone from having technology. How do we fix that?
I think it's one of the biggest issues of our time right now.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up. I think, first of all, understanding that if technology needs to serve all of us, it should be created by all of us. So the pipeline is so much earlier. We need to expose K-12 to basic technology, because I think we're at an inflection point where those people that understand and are comfortable with technology and are throwing around words like blockchain and AI and cryptocurrency and additive manufacturing, from those that have never heard those words to begin with, it's just going to grow and grow. And the power of folks that are comfortable with those to make choices that then impact millions is growing. So we really need to make sure that we're not just teaching coding, which is a first step. There's many great organizations that are trying to get into K-12 across all areas of the world to teach coding, but we need to teach what are the implications of these technologies. And one of the things I'm most proud of, some of the work we're doing down at Stanford at the D School, comes from my colleague Carissa Carter, who has been working to demystify technology using a human-centered lens. So she created this program called I Love Algorithms. And the idea is to teach people, anyone, my mom, my 13-year-old daughter, about what is an algorithm and why does it matter through the lens of problem solving. So instead of addressing it the way most people do, by the technical side and the frontal education of what an algorithm is, she starts out by saying, what's the best experience you've ever had in an amusement park? What would make it even better? And everyone can envision it. Oh, well, my favorite food is there, and there's no lines for rides, and there's parking is easy. And then from there, we back into, well, what data might help you get to those outcomes faster? How might the fast food place or the restaurant have that right kind of food just heat up right for you? And then through them teaches that the different kinds of algorithms. So it's a clustering algorithm or a classification algorithm, so that they have some concrete understanding and contextual understanding of what this technology is through their world, and then blows it out again to get back to the earlier point around implications, to say, well, what data would feed that and what data is missing, and how do we figure out how to make sure we're getting the complete set of data so that it doesn't go unchecked for too long. And all of a sudden you have these young leaders from the earliest ages having a sense of where technology fits within a larger, broader context, and the responsibility to be thinking about those from the beginning, those decisions of where data is coming from and who gets access to it. So it's incredibly powerful, and we're doing that across different technologies.
Well, starting with the end in mind is a great trait of leadership. So Lisa K. Solomon, the last question I have for you is, what is your definition of a real leader?
Real leader? That is a great question. I think a real leader makes choices that positively impacts others. That could be from the choices that they make to the purpose of what their organization is about, to how they run their organization and the kind of culture and conditions that they create to bring out the best in others. But they are thinking intentionally about the choices that they make in order to positively impact others.
Love that response. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this special interview with Lisa K. Solomon here live at Singularity University in San Francisco, California. Lisa, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.